Sarah Chen opened her eyes slowly. Everything hurt. Her head felt like someone had hit it with a hammer. The room around her was strange. The walls were smooth and white, but they seemed to glow with their own light. She had never seen anything like it before. She tried to sit up, but her body felt weak. Her arms shook as she pushed herself up on the bed. The bed was not like any bed she knew. It was soft but seemed to float slightly above the floor. Everything in this room was wrong, eh? Door opened, but Sarah had not seen any door before. A tall figure walked in. Sarah's eyes went wide. The person was not human. It was much taller than any human, maybe 8 feet tall. Its skin was clear like glass, and she could see something like light moving inside its body. It had 4 arms, and eyes that were completely black. "Do not be afraid," the creature said. Its voice was soft and musical. "You are safe now." Sarah tried to speak, but her throat was dry. Where am I?" she finally managed to say. "You are on our medical ship," the creature said. "I am healer Vextala. We found you floating. In space, your ship was badly damaged. You were almost dead when we brought you here." Sarah's memory started to come back in pieces. She remembered her small research ship. She had been studying a dying star. The star was old and cold, not like the hot, burning stars most people knew about. Scientists called it a white dwarf. She remembered getting too close. Something had gone wrong with her ship's engines. Then there had been a bright flash of cold light. "How long have I been here?" Sarah asked. 3 of your Earth days, Vextala said. "We have been trying to help you heal. But there is something wrong. Something we do not understand." Sarah felt scared. "What do you mean? What's wrong with me?" Vextala moved closer to the bed, but stopped suddenly. "We cannot touch you," it said. "Every time one of us tries to touch you, something terrible happens." "I don't understand," Sarah said. "Watch," Vextala said. It picked up a small plant from a table near the bed. The plant had purple leaves and seemed to glow softly. "This is a healing plant from our world. It is very much alive." Vextala held the plant near Sarah's hand. "Please touch it gently," Sarah reached out and touched one of the plant's leaves with her finger. The moment her skin touched the plant, something horrible happened. Ice crystals began to form on the leaf. The purple color drained away, turning white and then black. In just a few seconds, the entire plant became frozen solid. Then it crumbled to dust. Sarah pulled her hand back quickly. "What did I do?" she whispered. "This is what happens every time you touch something alive," Vextala said sadly. "Our healers tried to examine you when we first brought you here. The moment he touched your skin, ice began to form inside his body. We managed to save him, but barely."
Ow.
Sarah looked at her hands. They looked normal. They looked like the same hands she had always had. But now they were weapons. "This can't be real," she said. "We believe it happened when your ship was destroyed," Vextala explained. "The star you were studying released a burst of energy just before you found you. Our scanners showed that your body absorbed some of that energy. It has changed you in ways we do not understand." Sarah felt tears coming to her eyes. "Can you fix me? Can you make me normal again?" Vextala was quiet for a long moment. "We have tried everything we know. Our best healers have studied your condition for 3 days. We have never seen anything like this before, so I can never touch anyone again," Sarah asked. "I can never hug my friends. I can never shake hands. I can never pet a dog or touch a flower." "We do not know," Vextala said. "But for now, it is not safe for you to touch any living thing." Sarah lay back down on the floating bed. She felt more alone than she had ever felt in her life. Back on Earth, she had always been a person who loved to touch things. She hugged her friends. She petted every dog she met. She loved to work in her garden with her bare hands in the soil. Now all of that was gone. She was like a walking disease, a living weapon that killed everything she touched. "What am I supposed to do now?" she asked. "For now, you must stay here," Vextala said. "We have built a special room for you. Nothing alive will come near you unless there is a barrier between you and them. We will bring you food and water, but we cannot touch you directly." "Like a prison," Sarah said. "Like protection," Vextala said. for you and for everyone else. Over the next few days, Sarah learned more about her situation. She was on a ship, belonging to the Zephyrians, the crystal-like aliens who had found her. They were part of something called the Confederation of Worlds, a group of many different alien species who worked together. The Zephyrians were healers and scientists. They traveled through space helping other species with medical problems. They had saved thousands of lives over many years. But they had never seen anything like what had happened to Sarah. Sarah spent her time alone in her special room. The walls were clear, so she could see out into the rest of the medical bay. She watched the Zephyrians work. They moved with grace and care. They treated their patients gently. Sarah wished she could help them, but she knew that her touch would only bring death. Sometimes other aliens came to look at her. They stood outside her room and talked in languages she could not understand. She felt like an animal in a zoo. The strange human who killed with her touch. The worst part was the dreams. Every night, Sarah dreamed about the moment her ship was destroyed. She dreamed about the cold light of the dying star. In her dreams, she could feel the star's death entering her body. She could feel herself changing. She could feel the warmth leaving her and being replaced by something cold and empty. When she woke up, she would look at her hands again. They still looked normal, but she knew what they could do. She knew that inside her body was the death of a star, and now that death lived in her touch. Sarah had been on the Zephyrian ship for 2 weeks when everything changed. She was sitting in her glass room, reading books on a screen that the aliens had given her, when alarms started going off all over the ship. The lights turned red and a voice spoke in the Zephyrian language over the ship's speakers. Vexala rushed into the medical bay. Sarah had never seen the healer move so fast before. Other Zephyrians were running around, their crystal bodies flashing with bright colors. Sarah knew this meant they were scared or excited. "What's happening?" Sarah asked through the speaker system that let her talk to people outside her room. Vexthela turned to her. "We have received an emergency message from the Confederation Council. Something terrible is happening in the outer systems." "What kind of terrible?" Sarah asked. "An old enemy has returned," Vexthela said. "The Devourers." Sarah had never heard that name before. "What are Devourers?" Vexthela was quiet for a moment. Then it said, "They are death itself. They are beings made of pure energy who eat the life force of entire planets. They have been sleeping in the center of the galaxy for 1,000 years. Now they are awake." The ship's main screen turned on, showing a message from the Confederation Council. Sarah could see many different types of aliens sitting around a large table. There were beings that looked like giant insects, others that seemed to be made of living metal, and some that looked almost like humans, but with extra arms or different colored skin. The leader of the council was speaking. Sarah's translation. Device let her understand what he was saying. 3 star systems have been completely destroyed, the council leader said. The planets Zarian Prime, New Crystalia, and Haven 7 are now frozen wastelands. Every living thing on those worlds is dead. Sarah felt sick to her stomach. Entire planets full of people, all dead. The council leader continued. Our military forces have tried to fight the Devourers, but our weapons cannot hurt them. They are made of energy, not matter. Our ships can shoot at them all day and the weapons pass right through them. Another alien spoke up. It looked like a giant bird with 4 wings. What about our best warriors? The Korthok Battlemasters? Thermion Firefighters? All dead, the council leader said sadly. The Devourers kill by touch, just like our ancient stories say. Any living being that touches them dies instantly. Their bodies freeze from the inside out. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. That sounded very familiar. How do they kill exactly? Asked another council member. They drain the life force directly from living beings, the council leader explained. When they touch something alive, ice crystals form in the blood and all. The body's heat disappears in seconds. It is a horrible way to die. Sarah's heart started beating faster. The way the Devourers killed was exactly like what happened when she touched living things. Her mind began to race. Vexthela noticed Sarah's expression. What is wrong? The healer asked. The way they kill, Sarah said, it's the same as what I do. Vexthella's eyes went wide. What do you mean? Touch living things, they freeze. From the inside out, ice forms in their blood. Their life force drains away. It's exactly what the council leader just described. Vexthella stared at Sarah for a long moment. Then the healer started moving around the room very quickly, checking computers and reading data. Oh. You may be right, Vexthella said. Your condition and the Devourer's killing method are very similar. On the screen, the council meeting continued. The aliens were arguing about what to do. Some wanted to run away to another galaxy. Others wanted to try building bigger weapons. A few suggested hiding on planets far from where the Devourers had been seen. None of those plans will work, said an old alien that looked like a tree with many arms. The Devourers will not stop until they have eaten every living thing in the galaxy. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be bargained with. Only hunger. Then what do you suggest? Asked the council leader. I suggest we prepare to die with dignity, the tree-like alien said. Sarah watched the meeting and felt angry. These beings were giving up. They were smart enough to travel between stars and build amazing technology, but they were ready to surrender without really trying. There has to be something we can do, Sarah said to Vexthella. What could we do that the greatest military minds in the galaxy have not thought of? Vexthella asked. I don't know yet, Sarah said, but I'm human. Humans don't give up easily. Over. The next few hours, more bad news came in. 2 more star systems had gone dark. The Devourers were moving faster than anyone had expected. They seemed to be heading toward the center of Confederation space, where billions of people lived. Sarah watched the news reports and studied everything she could find about the Devourers. The more she learned, the more she became convinced that her condition was connected to them somehow. The Devourers had appeared in the galaxy long ago. They had destroyed hundreds of worlds before suddenly disappearing into the galactic core. The old stories said they were defeated by an ancient weapon, but no one knew what that weapon was. Sarah noticed something interesting in the old records. Every description of the Devourers mentioned that they were vulnerable to the touch of ending or the frozen death. But no one seemed to understand what those phrases meant. Vexthella? Sarah called out. Can you come here? The healer approached her glass room. What is it? I think I might be able to help, Sarah said. How? You cannot leave this room safely. Maybe that's exactly why I can help, Sarah said. Everyone is trying to fight the Devourers with normal weapons and normal soldiers, but I'm not normal anymore. Vexthella looked confused. I do not understand. The Devourers kill by touch, right? They drain life force and freeze their victims. But what if someone touched them who was already carrying death and ice inside them? Vexthella's crystal body began flashing rapidly. You think your condition might hurt them instead of helping them? I don't know, Sarah said. But I think we should find out. The galaxy is dying, and everyone else has given up. What do we have to lose? Vexthella was quiet for a long time. Finally, the healer said, This is very dangerous. If we are wrong, you could die. Or you could make the Devourers even stronger. If we do nothing, everyone dies anyway, Sarah said. At least this way, we're trying. That night, while most of the ship slept, Vexthella came to Sarah's room with a secret message device. I have contacted someone who might be able to help. Us, the healer said quietly. Who? Sarah asked. A scientist named Kethfer. Gore. He works for the Confederation military, but he studies old weapons and ancient technology. If anyone would be willing to try something crazy, it would be him. Sarah felt a spark of hope for the first time in weeks. Maybe, just maybe, her curse could become something useful. Maybe the thing that made her a monster could make her a hero instead. The message device activated, and a new alien face appeared. On the screen, Kethfer looked similar to Vexthella, but older, with scars on his crystal skin. So, Kethfer said, looking directly at Sarah, I hear you want to touch death itself. Want to tell me everything? Kethfer arrived at the medical ship 3 days later. Sarah watched through her glass room as the military scientist walked into the medical bay. He moved differently than other Zephyrians, where most of them were graceful and careful. Kethfer moved like someone who had seen too many battles. Show me what she can do, Kethfer said to Vexthella. Without even saying hello, Vexthella brought several small plants and a container of bacteria that glowed blue. "Touch these," Vextella said to Sarah through the speaker. Sarah placed her hand on the glass wall of her room. Vextella pushed the plants against the other side of the glass. Nothing happened. "The barrier blocks your power," Kethver observed. "Good. That means we can control it." Vextella opened a small slot in the glass wall. Sarah reached her finger through the opening and touched one of the plants. Ice crystals formed immediately. The plant turned black and crumbled to dust in seconds. Kethver watched carefully. Again, touch the bacteria. Sarah touched the container. The blue glow disappeared as all the bacteria died instantly. Ice formed on the inside of the container. "Fascinating," Kethver said. "The energy pattern is almost identical to Devour attacks, but reversed." "What do you mean reversed?" Sarah asked. "Devours take life energy and use it to make themselves stronger," Kethver explained. "But you seem to cancel life energy completely. You don't absorb it like they do. You destroy it." Over the next week, Kethver ran many tests. He brought different types of alien life forms for Sarah to touch. Every time the result was the same. Instant death by freezing. "The energy readings are very interesting," Kethver said, looking at his computer. "When you touch living things, you create what we call an entropy field. Entropy is the force that makes hot things become cold and makes organized things become chaotic." "I don't understand," Sarah said. "Think of it this way," Kethver said. "Life is about energy and organization. Your heart beats in a pattern. Your blood flows in a certain direction. Your cells work together. When you touch something alive, you make all of that organization fall apart very quickly." Sarah felt sad hearing this explanation. "So I really am just a weapon that destroys things." "Maybe," Kethver said. "Or maybe you are exactly what we need to fight beings made of pure life energy." Kethver began working on a special suit for Sarah. It was white and silver, with a helmet that covered her whole head. The suit had systems that could measure and control the energy field around her body. "This will let you control your power," Kethver explained. "You can turn it on and off, or make it stronger or weaker." Sarah tried on the suit. It felt strange but comfortable. For the first time in weeks, she could leave her glass room. Kethver and Vextella watched nervously as she walked around the medical bay. "How do you feel?" Vextella asked. "Free," Sarah said. "I had almost forgotten what it was like to move around." But the real test came when they brought in a volunteer. It was a young Zephyrian soldier who had volunteered to help with the experiment. Sarah was terrified. "What if I hurt him?" "The suit should protect him," Kethver said. "But we must test it to be sure." Sarah reached out slowly and touched the soldier's arm. Nothing happened. The soldier smiled. "It works," Vextella said happily. But then Kethver said, "Now try turning your power on." There was a switch inside Sarah's helmet. When she flipped it, she could feel the cold energy flowing through her body. She touched the soldier's arm again. This time, ice began to form on his skin, but it happened slowly and stopped when Sarah pulled her hand away. "Perfect," Kethver said. "You can control how much power you use." The next part of the training was much harder. Kethver brought recordings of Devourer attacks. Sarah had to watch as the energy beings destroyed ships and killed soldiers. "You need to understand your enemy," Kethver said. "Devourers are not just random destroyers. They are intelligent. They hunt in groups. They learn from their mistakes." Sarah watched the recordings and felt sick. The Devourers looked like shadows. Made of light, they moved through space without ships. When they touched the hull of a spaceship, the entire ship would freeze and break apart. When they touched a person, that person would scream for just a moment before turning into ice. "How many people have they killed?" Sarah asked. "In the current attacks, about 50 billion, Kethver said quietly. "In the ancient wars before they went to sleep, they killed trillions." Sarah felt anger building inside her. These creatures had killed so many innocent people. They had destroyed entire civilizations. Someone had to stop them. "I want to fight them," Sarah said. "I hoped you would say that," Kethver said. "But first, you need to understand something important about humans." "What do you mean?" Kethver pulled up files on his computer. "I have been studying human history since Vextella contacted me. Your species is very unusual." "How?" Most intelligent species in the galaxy are afraid of impossible situations, Kethver explained. When they face something they cannot understand or defeat, they give up or run away. But humans are different. Sarah looked at the files. They showed human soldiers fighting in terrible wars. They showed humans exploring dangerous places. They showed humans trying to solve problems that seemed impossible. Humans have something we call psychological resilience, Kethver continued. You can keep fighting even when you know you might lose. You can stay hopeful even when everything looks hopeless. You can adapt to situations that would drive other species insane. Is that important for fighting devourers? Sarah asked. Very important, Kethver said. You see, devourers do not just kill with their touch. They also attack the mind. They make their victims feel hopeless and afraid. Most species freeze up with terror before the devourers even touch them. Sarah thought about this. She remembered times in her life when she had felt scared but kept going anyway. When she was a child and got lost in the woods, she had been terrified but kept walking until she found her way home. When she was in college and failed an important test, she had felt like giving up but studied harder instead. I think I understand, Sarah said. You think I can resist their fear attacks because I'm human? I think you can do more than resist them, Kethver said. I think you can fight them in ways they do not expect. Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah trained hard. She learned to use her power in different ways. She could create small bursts of freezing energy that would stop electronics. She could make large fields of cold that would slow down energy beings. She could even focus all her power into a single point for maximum damage. The most important. The lesson came when Kethver brought her recordings of humans in combat. Watch how they think, he said. Other species follow battle plans exactly. If the plan fails, they do not know what to do. But humans change their plans constantly. They try new things. They use their environment as a weapon. They never give up. Sarah watched videos of human soldiers adapting to new situations, using broken equipment in creative ways and refusing to surrender even when outnumbered. That is your real weapon, Kethver said. Not just your power to freeze things, but your human ability to think differently. Finally, Sarah was ready for her first real test. Kethver had captured a small piece of Devour energy in a special container. It was not alive, but it had the same properties as a real DEVOURER. Sarah approached the container carefully. She could feel the cold energy inside it, calling to the cold energy inside her. She reached out and touched the container. The moment her hand made contact, something amazing happened. Instead of the Devourer energy draining her life force, her entropy field began breaking down the Devourer energy itself. The two forces fought against each other, and Sarah's power won. It works, Kethver said, his crystal body flashing with excitement. You can actually hurt them. Sarah smiled inside her helmet. For the first time since her accident, she felt like her curse might actually be a gift. She was ready to fight. Back against the destroyers of worlds. She was ready to show the galaxy what humans could do when everything seemed impossible. The first battle came sooner than anyone expected. Sarah was still training when emergency alarms went off across the entire Confederation fleet. A group of Devourers had been spotted heading toward the planet Meridian, home to 12 billion. People, we have to go now, Kethver said, rushing into the training room. There's no more time to prepare. Sarah felt her stomach twist with fear, but she put on her suit anyway. How many Devourers are there? Scouts report at least 50, Kethver said. It is the largest group anyone has seen since they returned. Sarah's ship was small and fast. It was built specially for her mission, with weapons that could hurt energy beings and shields that could protect her from their attacks. But as they flew toward Meridian, Sarah realized she would not be fighting alone. What are those ships following us? She asked, looking at her screens. Kethver smiled, which was strange to see on his Ephraim face. Those are volunteers. Humans who want to fight with you. Sarah was confused. Other humans? But I thought I was the only one who could hurt the Devourers. You are, Kethver said. But after word spread about what you could do, other humans came forward. They cannot hurt devourers directly, but they have other advantages. The first ship to contact Sarah was piloted by a human woman named Maria Santos. She had been a soldier on Earth before coming to space. "I heard you were fighting the impossible," Maria said over the radio. "Humans are good at that." The second ship belonged to twins named Jack and Emma Kim. They had survived the destruction of their colony world when pirates attacked. They had spent 3 years living in the ruins before rescue came. "We learned how to fight when everything was broken," Jack said. "We learned how to win when winning should have been impossible." More human ships joined them as they flew toward Meridian. There was Dr. Ahmad Hassan, who had worked in war zones on Earth. There was Captain Lisa Park, who had survived a ship crash by building tools from scraps. There was Engineer Bob Miller, who could fix anything with spare parts and determination. "Are you all here?" Sarah asked over the fleet radio. "This is not your fight. You could all die." "It became our fight when those things started killing innocent people," Maria said. "Besides, someone has to show these aliens how humans handle bullies." When they reached Meridian, the battle had already started. Confederation ships were fighting the Devourers, but they were losing badly. Sarah watched in horror as Devourer energy beings passed right through alien ships, freezing them from the inside. Thousands of alien soldiers were dying every minute. "All human ships. This is Sarah," she said into her radio. "I am going to attack the Devourers directly. Do not follow me too closely." "Understood," Maria said. "We will cover you and deal with any problems you cannot handle." Sarah flew her ship straight at the largest group of Devourers. These beings looked like shadows made of cold light, floating through space without any ships or equipment. They saw Sarah coming. They moved to attack her. The first Devourer reached out to touch her ship. Sarah activated her power through the ship's hull. The moment the Devourer touched her ship, ice crystals began forming on the energy being's body. The Devourer screamed, a sound like breaking glass, and pulled away. "It worked," Sarah shouted. "I can hurt them." But the fight was much harder than she had expected. The Devourers were fast and smart. They learned quickly that Sarah was dangerous, and began working together to attack her from different directions. Sarah's ship was hit several times. Each time a Devourer touched her ship, she had to use her power to drive it away. But using her power so much was making her tired and weak. "Sarah, you have 5 Devourers coming from above," Jack Kim called out. "We cannot help you with those." Sarah looked at her screens and saw the problem. The Devourers were trying to surround her. They all attacked at once. She would not be able to stop them all. That was when her human nature saved her. Instead of following a careful plan, she did something crazy. She opened her ship's cargo bay and flew directly into the middle of the Devourer group. "What are you doing?" Kethfer shouted over the radio from his command ship. "Something they will not expect," Sarah said. She activated her suit's emergency systems and ejected herself from her ship. Now she was floating in space, surrounded by Devourers, with only her suit protecting her. The Devourers moved in to attack her, but when they touched her suit, something amazing happened. Her entropy field was much stronger when she was not inside. A ship, the first Devourer that touched her, immediately began to break apart. Its energy form could not handle the direct contact with Sarah's power. "Impossible," one of the Devourers said. Sarah was surprised that it could speak. "Nothing is impossible for humans," Sarah said, reaching out to grab another Devourer. The battle became very strange. Sarah was wrestling with beings made of pure energy while floating in space. Every time she touched one, it would freeze and break apart. There were so many of them, and she was getting very tired. The other humans helped in ways Sarah had not expected. Maria used her ship to ram Devourers while they were distracted by Sarah. The Kim twins used their ship's lights to confuse the energy beings. Dr. Hassan analyzed the Devourers' attack patterns and told Sarah where they would strike next. "Sarah, you've got one coming from behind," Bob Miller called out. "Turn left in 3 seconds." Sarah followed his advice and managed to catch the Devourer by surprise. She grabbed it with both hands and used all her power. The Devourer screamed and dissolved into nothing. But the most important moment came when Sarah grabbed the largest Devourer, the one that seemed to be leading the others. As her hands touched its energy form, something unexpected happened. Instead of just dissolving, the devourer began to change. "What is happening to me?" the devourer said in a voice full of confusion and fear. Sarah could feel something through her power. The devourer was not just an energy being. It had been something else once, something that had been changed against its will. "You were not always like this," Sarah said, holding on to the struggling devourer. "Something made you this way." "The cold light," the devourer whispered. "The dying star. It changed us. We were peaceful once. We were explorers with the stars. Death made us hungry. Always hungry." Sarah realized with shock that this devourer had been changed by the same kind of energy that had changed her. The energy of a dying star had turned a peaceful species into monsters. "I can help you," Sarah said. "I can take the hunger away." She focused her power differently, not trying to destroy the devourer, but trying to remove the foreign energy that had corrupted it. It was the hardest thing she had ever done, like trying to perform surgery while fighting for her life. Slowly, the devourer began to change. Its shadow-like form became more solid. Its cold light became warmer. When Sarah finally let go, the being floating in front of her looked completely different. "I remember now," the former devourer said. "I remember who I was before the hunger. Thank you." The other devourers saw what had happened and stopped attacking. Some of them began to retreat. Others approached Sarah carefully. "Can you heal us?" "All?" one of them asked. Sarah looked around at the dozens of devourers still in the area. She was already exhausted from the battle. Healing all of them might kill her. "I can try," she said. "Sarah, do not do this," Kethfer said over the radio. "You are too weak. It is too dangerous." "Someone has to try," Sarah said. "If these beings can be healed instead of destroyed, we have to do it." Maria's voice came over the radio. "That is the most human thing I have ever heard anyone say." "We are with you, Sarah," the other human pilots agreed. They formed a protective circle around Sarah while she worked. One by one, she touched the devourers and tried to heal them. It was the hardest thing she had ever done, but also the most important. By the time she was finished, Sarah could barely stay conscious. But she had saved dozens of beings who had been trapped as monsters for 1,000 years. The battle was over, and for the first time since the devourers had returned, they had been defeated, not through violence, but through understanding and healing. After the battle at Meridian, everything changed. Word spread quickly through the galaxy that the devourers could be healed instead of destroyed. But the news also brought a terrible warning from the beings that Sarah had saved. "The hunger is spreading," explained Veltar, the first devourer Sarah had healed. He now looked like a tall, graceful being made of soft blue light. "We were fleeing from something much worse when we became corrupted." Sarah was resting in the medical bay of Kethfer's command ship. Healing so many devourers had left her weak and tired. "What could be worse than you?" she asked. "The source," Veltar said. "At the center of the galaxy is a dying superstar. It has been slowly poisoning space around it for thousands of years. The corruption that made us into monsters is spreading outward like a wave. Soon it will reach every inhabited world." Kethfer studied the data Veltar had provided. "According to this, we have maybe 6 months before the corruption wave reaches the core worlds of the Confederation. Billions will die, and those who survive will become like the devourers were." Sarah sat up in her bed, ignoring the pain in her body. "Then we have to stop it at the source." "Impossible," Kethfer said. "The superstar is surrounded by the most concentrated corruption field in the galaxy. No ship can get close to it. Even you would be overwhelmed by that much corrupted energy." "Maybe," Sarah said, "but we have to try." Over the next weeks, Sarah and her human crew prepared for what everyone believed would be a suicide mission. The plan was simple but dangerous. Sarah would fly directly to the dying superstar and try to use her power to stop the corruption at its source. Maria Santos upgraded her ship with the best shields and weapons the Confederation could provide. "If we are going to die," she said, "we might as well die in style." The Kim twins had worked with Confederation engineers to create special equipment that could amplify Sarah's power. "We figured out how to make your entropy field much stronger," Jack explained, "but using it might kill you." Dr. Hassan had created a medical system that would keep Sarah alive even if her body started to shut down. The human body can survive amazing things if it has the right support. He said, but the most important addition to their mission came from an unexpected source. More healed devourers had joined them, led by Veltar. "We know the way to the superstar," Veltar said, "and we know the corruption better than anyone. We can guide you through the worst areas." "Why would you risk your lives for this?" Sarah asked. "You are finally free. You could go anywhere in the galaxy." "Because you gave us our freedom," Veltar replied, "and because we know what it is like to be corrupted against our will. We will not let that happen to others." The journey to the Galactic Center took 3 weeks. As they got closer to the dying, superstar space itself began to change. The darkness between stars became filled with a cold, hungry light. Sarah could feel the corruption trying to get into her mind. "I can hear it," she told her crew over the radio. "The star. It is screaming." "What is it saying?" Emma Kim asked. "It is in pain," Sarah said. "It does not want to die. It does not want to corrupt everything around it, but it cannot stop." The corruption got worse as they traveled deeper. Several Confederation ships that had tried to escort them had to turn back when their crews started to change. Only the humans and the healed devourers could continue. "There it is," Maria said as they finally saw their destination. The dying superstar was the most terrifying thing Sarah had ever seen. It was huge, maybe 100 times bigger than normal stars, but instead of burning bright, it glowed with cold, dead light. Around it swirled a massive field of corruption that stretched for millions of miles. "The corruption field has a center," Veltar reported from his ship. "There is something inside the star itself, something that should not be there." Sarah looked at her instruments and saw what he meant. Deep inside the dying star was a dark mass that seemed to be eating the star from within. It is not natural, she realized. Something put that darkness inside the star. Someone made this happen on purpose. As they got closer, the corruption field began attacking their ships directly. Sarah had to use her power constantly to protect her crew. But every time she used her power, she got weaker. "Sarah, you cannot keep this up much longer," Dr. Hassan warned. "Your body is starting to shut down." "I have to," Sarah said. "We are almost there." Finally, they reached the edge of the star itself. The heat and corruption were so intense that Sarah's ship began to break apart. She knew she would have to leave the ship and face the source of the corruption directly. "This is it," she told her crew. "I am going in alone." "No way," Maria said. "We came this far together. We finished together." "She is right," said Bob Miller. "Humans do not abandon each other." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. Even though she knew they would probably die, her crew was staying with her. She activated the special equipment the Kim twins had built and felt her power grow stronger than it had ever been. Then she opened her ship and stepped out into the heart of the dying star. The corruption hit her like a physical blow. Tried to get into her mind, to make her hungry and cold like the devourers had been. But Sarah's human stubbornness kept her focused. She swam through the star's burning plasma toward the dark mass at its center. The closer she got, the more she understood what had happened. Someone had put a piece of pure entropy inside the star, a weapon designed to slowly corrupt the entire galaxy. "Who would do this?" she whispered. She reached out and touched the dark mass. The moment her hands made contact, she saw the truth. Long ago, a species called the Entropy Lords had created this weapon to destroy all life in the galaxy. They believed that existence was suffering and that it would be kinder to end everything. But they had made one mistake. They had not expected anyone like Sarah to exist. They had not expected someone who could touch their weapon and turn its power against itself. Sarah wrapped her arms around the dark mass and hugged it tight. She poured all of her power into it, all of her human determination and love for life. The weapon began to break apart in her hands. "You are wrong," she said to the long-dead Entropy Lords. "Life is not suffering. Life is hope. Life is the chance to make things better." The dark mass shattered like glass. The moment it broke, the corruption field around the star began to collapse. The dying superstar, freed from the weapon that had been poisoning it, began to heal itself. Sarah felt the change happen all around her. The cold, hungry light became warm and bright. The corruption that had been spreading through the galaxy stopped and began to reverse itself. But using so much power had cost her everything. She could feel her life force draining away. She was dying. That was when something wonderful happened. Beltar and the other healed devourers reached out to her with their own energy. They gave her some of their life force to keep her alive. Why? Sarah asked weakly. Because you taught us that life is worth saving, Beltar said. Even when it seems impossible. Sarah survived, but she was changed again. The weapon's destruction had altered her power. Instead of freezing everything she touched, she now brought healing and warmth. Her touch could cure diseases and repair damaged cells. When they returned to Confederation space, Sarah was welcomed as a hero. But she was most proud of something else. The humans who had fought with her were invited to join the Confederation Council as the galaxy's newest member species. Humans have shown us something we had forgotten, the council leader said. They have shown us that the greatest victories come not from destroying our enemies, but from healing them. They have shown us that hope can survive even in the darkest places. Sarah became the first human ambassador to the Confederation. She spent her days traveling to different worlds, using her new healing touch to help people and teaching others about the human way of never giving up. Sometimes she thought about her old life before the accident that had changed her. She had been alone then, studying distant stars. Now she was surrounded by friends from dozens of different species, all working together to make the galaxy a better place. Her curse had become the greatest gift she could ever have imagined. Had learned that sometimes the things that make us different are the very things the universe needs most.